Specialized Lebanese sources exposed the inlets of smuggling weapons into Syria and the parties involved therein. Units of the Syrian army stormed terrorist hideouts. And Washington is moving towards the financial abyss. Good afternoon. Welcome to our news bulletin. I'm Danya Nizam. In its sixth session of the ordinary course of the first legislative period of the People's Assembly, the Assembly met under the Speaker Mohammed Jihad Laham to discuss the draft law concerning the organisation of the work of the Dentist Association. The Assembly approved the reports concerning the election of the officers of the permanent committees and the formation of the Committee of National Reconciliation. The latter will meet tomorrow to elect its office, its chief, deputy and reporter. The UN envoy to Syria, Lakhdar Ibrahimi, confirmed that there is no solution to the crisis in Syria other than a political solution that achieves the aspirations of the Syrian people. Ibrahimi's statements came during a press conference he held in Cairo as he said that the foundations of a political solution to the crisis in Syria are available and there is an international consensus on this. The UN envoy also called on the international community and the countries of the region to work hard and to help in finding this solution as soon as possible, warning of the repercussions this crisis may have on the entire region. The chairman of the Iranian Shura Majlis, Ali Larijani, stressed the necessity of seeking a political and diplomatic mechanism to solve the Syrian crisis. During his meeting with Chairman of Foreign Affairs in the Algerian Parliament, Ibrahim Boulahia, Mr. Larijani asserted that reforms in Syria should be achieved through dialogue, not through weapons and the murder of innocent people at the hands of terrorist groups. He called upon the Islamic countries to cooperate to defend the rights of the Palestinian people. Within the context of targeting national capacities and potentials, a terrorist gang murdered the director of religious endowments in Raqqa in front of his house near An-Noor Mosque. The terrorists shouted in panic when our army attacked them and their supporters ran away and left them to their fate. Nobody listened to their desperate appeals and they took to their heels after they shed Syrian blood. The Syrian Arab army units restored security and stability. The terrorists were killed and their weapons were confiscated, including a cannon and locally made missiles and explosive devices, in addition to Russian-made sniper guns. The army also confiscated stolen medical compounds. The army continued to chase them in various places. The leader of the police in the governorate of Idlib, Qahtan Ghabra, toured a number of security roadblocks in the city and its environs. He called for continuing the vigilance to protect security and to facilitate people's movements and to protect them against any attacks. He expressed appreciation of the role of the security forces who faced the foiled terrorist attempts to infiltrate into the city. He also told the automatic bakeries in Idlib which sell bread to citizens and prevented any opportunists from manipulating the citizens' essential needs. In Aleppo and its countryside, our armed forces targeted terrorist hideouts in various quarters, inflicting heavy casualties among the criminals. Our armed forces also targeted terrorist groups in Al-Masraniya, Al-Jazmati, Qadi Askar and other places, killing many of them and destroying their equipment. Eyewitnesses are here again, but this time they're neither on Al Jazeera nor on Al Arabiya TV channels. The people of the area of Hilfan in Ras Al Ain in Al Hasaka speak about their suffering and what they have done to protect their livelihood from the terrorism of the extremist gangs.
The eyewitnesses shown in Al Jazeera and Al Arabiya TV channels aren't here. The eyewitnesses are the real people of Al Hasaka. This is the area whose terrorists were accompanied and embraced by Al Jazeera. While they were killing people and plundering their property, let's listen to their testimonies.
We are not the so-called free army. We are popular committees.
Security belongs to the citizens in Syria who informed the security forces about the hideouts and body-trapped cars of the terrorists. The plundering of property and the burning of crops and fertilizers are samples of the crimes of these terrorists who steal everything to sell it in Turkey. Under the protection of Erdogan and his government, the Guardian paper exposed only part of these terrorist crimes in Syria. They even stole chickens. Perhaps they wanted to free these chickens. They stole electric wires, wheat crops, and animal fodder. They left the stores of warehouses empty. Those who work in Al Jazeera and Al Arabiya channels understood what was happening. They stole people's property. They continued murder and destruction in order to achieve their evil goals. This film shows you part of the reality about these terrorists.
Marking the occasion of Tree Day, the Municipal Council of Latakia carried out a voluntary campaign of planting trees with the participation of civil society in order to improve and rehabilitate gardens and public parks.
Under the motto, "They planted for us so that we plant for our children," Latakia City Council, in cooperation with the volunteer environment team and the civil society, started a wide planting campaign in a number of parks and neighborhoods in Latakia to celebrate the Tree Day.
Out of connecting the society with the service parties in the governorate, we formed an environment volunteer team to cooperate together, especially during these current circumstances. We insisted on bringing the children to underline the meaning of this work.
The campaign, which improves the neighborhoods, is part of an overall project that will be carried out during 3 phases this year.
The volunteer team is formed of the people in Latakia who are willing to participate. We're going to plant 1,200 trees in 3 locations in Latakia: in Al Husseini Street, the Beirut Street, and the Warehouse District near the Sports City.
They planted for us, to plant for them is the title of a new initiative to build a new future that we all seek.
This concludes our news bulletin for this afternoon. God bless you, God bless Syria. And now it's over to our economic news with Fani.
Good afternoon. The campaign of immunization against smallpox and polio was completed by the Ministry of Health, supported by the UN Childhood Organization and the World Health Organization. Nearly 1.5 million children were vaccinated. The Minister of Health, Dr. Saad Al-Naif, pointed out that the campaign was the first of its kind. The representative of UNICEF, Youssef Abdel-Jalil, asserted that the success of this campaign was the result of coordination and cooperation between the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization. He said all the vaccinations were bought from reliable sources and were subjected to strict monitoring conditions. The Ministry of Justice implemented the Economic Penal Code project in order to overcome the financial and economic crimes and to protect the national economy. The project included a definition of the law, the state, the public fund, the public employee, and jail, while the second sector included the criminalization and punishments. As the Article 3 stated, the prison sentence of 5 years for everyone who ruined the fixed capital or the equipment that belonged to the state, whereas Article 4 mentioned everyone who abstained from implementing the commitments concerning the economic tasks with an intent to cause damage. Moreover, prison punishment would be from 3 to 5 years, and the penalty would be at least a year if the damage was caused by negligence. The Economic Committee approved to raise the share of the Minister of Agriculture regarding exporting revenues by 300 Syrian pounds for each male sheep from the previous decision, which allowed exporting 300,000 sheep and goats by the end of the last week, which approached 50,000 male sheep. The manager of the Animal Health Department, Dr. Hussein Suleiman, asserted that the ministry's revenues have been paid for the development of the livestock sector. He also highlighted that the ministry's share during the current season was approved, while it didn't charge any revenues from exporting the sheep. The revenues during the last decision reached 50 million Syrian pounds compared to the previous decision, which reached 90 million Syrian pounds. The Tunisian Airlines decided to lay 1,700 agents during the coming 2 years due to financial obstacles. The manager of the company stressed that the aim of this was to ease the financial crisis facing the company. The manager also said that the company suffered from over 36 million euros in financial losses during the first half of this year, indicating that it is now suffering from various obstacles such as high number of workers and poor organizing. In France, the Constitutional Council decided to cancel the 75% tax, directing a blow by this decision to the government of the President François Hollande. The Council considered this tax percentage that was imposed on the wealthy as an unconstitutional procedure. The Prime Minister Jean-Marc Ayrault affirmed that the government will suggest a new mechanism that matches the principles specified by the decision of the Constitutional Council in an attempt to avoid an internal crisis, in addition to the economic crisis that France is currently suffering from. The disagreement about the economic policies increased between the two parties in the U.S. Democrats will stick to the social program, while Republicans don't want to abandon the reduction of the tax rate. The politicization of this issue would affect negatively the credibility of the country's credit, in addition to the structural problems. This may lead to the risk of slipping into fiscal cliff crisis. This crisis means the reduction of the government expenses and about a 20% tax increase. This would reduce consumption, decrease expenses, collapse the internal demand, and decline the local production by 0.5%. Also, this causes increasing the unemployment rate and raise the legality of the maximum debts, which reaches $16,394 billion, according to the U.S. Treasury Department. The Federal Reserve Board warned against not having the fiscal and monetary tools to avoid deflation, especially that the country is still suffering from the previous one. Some economic experts expected a financial collapse, the bankruptcy of hundreds of banks, and some troubles in paying mortgages, while a lot of people expected that Obama is eager to go into the abyss for some political reasons to reach a political victory there, according to the Republican Senator Joan Barrison. The Energy Information Administration of the U.S. said that the U.S. imports of the crude oil dropped to 816,000 barrels per day, to reach the lowest level since the year 2000. The crude oil imports average were 8,091,000 barrels a day in October, and the imports of the crude was down below their levels a year ago. This decline coincides with a slight fall in the U.S. demands for oil in October. The 21-carat gold was set at 4,250 Syrian pounds, as the 18-carat gold was set at 3,643 Syrian pounds per gram in the local market. Whereas the Jewelers Association set the price of the golden coin at 32,200 Syrian pounds, while the English coin of the 21-carat gold was set at 34,400 Syrian pounds, and the 22-carat gold was set at 36,000 Syrian pounds per gram. And now over to the exchange rates according to the bulletin of the Central Bank of Syria. And with this, we conclude our news. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.